This is DC, powered by people and ideas, where the community comes together, voices are heard, and decisions are shaped.
So I want to start by saying, welcome home.
Connecting you to what matters and to each other.
How you doing? You know, what's the tea?
I'm Lorenzo Hall, and this is the DC Beat. It's good to see you. I'm Lorenzo Hall. So it's been a busy week in DC with city leaders making a few big moves that will impact so many lives. First, I want to talk about a point of contention between DC leaders involving what's known as the FAAR Act, or Full Accountability and Arrest Reporting Act. So Mayor Bowser signed off on a separate police transparency bill requiring MPD to make public any body camera video when they're on the scene with federal officers and there's use of force. However, the mayor vetoed a companion bill introduced by Councilmember Robert White requiring MPD to document the names of federal officers present during use of force cases. Mayor Bowser said White's bill does not include any implementation, planning, or training period for officers, and says she thinks this is a recipe for complication for frontline officers and prosecutors. Now, federal agents, they shot at this DC man right here, Philip Brown, last year. Brown's mother and his attorney, they were at the Wilson Building Tuesday, encouraging the DC Council to override the mayor's veto.
So I'm just asking that we release these names of these agents. We hold them accountable.
We should know exactly who they are. It's bare minimum. We're giving people guns, putting them on our streets, allowing them to interact with our citizens, and you're telling me that they need training on how to take down a name?
Oh, after the mayor's veto, Councilmember White spent days trying to encourage his council colleagues to override the mayor's veto. And you know, that's exactly what they did Tuesday. Councilmember White is at the table with me now. Robert White, thank you for being here with us. Always good to see you.
Glad to be back.
All right, so tell us what happened with the FAAR Act here. It seemed to get a bit messy. We know that Mayor Bowser, she vetoed it. The council decided to override that veto unanimously. So how did we get to this point?
Yeah, well, I want to recognize the council and my colleagues for staying unanimous and showing leadership in a time when we know both the city and the federal officials are watching. But that's the same reason I was frustrated and disappointed with the mayor, where you have unanimous movement by the council. Don't step out and show Congress and White House, who are not our friends, a division, and certainly don't turn it political. That wasn't good for the city. So I hope she sees that misstep and says, look, I need to work with my colleagues a little better.
Don't turn it political. What do you mean by that?
Well, she issued a letter yesterday morning. She was lobbying members to not support my bill. She signed one passed by one of my colleagues. I tried to be collegial and separate that piece out so my colleague could pass a bill, I could pass a bill.
Meaning Brooke Pinto.
Brooke Pinto, and we can move together. That was the collegial thing to do. I had the votes to pass the whole bill, but I did the collegial thing. The mayor used the political opportunity to veto my bill, then sent a letter to the council saying this is political. It wasn't political until you introduced politics into it. This is about Philip Brown, who I spoke to on the phone, whose mother has cried in my office. This is about the other two black men who have been shot by federal officers. That's what this is about, and I think the council recognized that.
Yeah, so we know with Brooke Pinto's bill, it compelled MPD to provide body camera video when federal agents are present during use of force cases. With yours, it requires MPD to document when federal agents are present during use of force cases or an arrest. Yep. So they seem like they go hand in hand together. So what is the big issue? The mayor seemed to imply that this would be a heavy lift, meaning your bill for MPD.
Right. Again, that was politics, and it was unfortunate. MPD already has body cam footage. Right. MPD already takes reports when there's use of force for local officers. These bills ensure that when federal officers use force, the body cam footage includes them, and the reports include the federal officers. It's the exact same thing they already do. So this bill, these two bills were a package.
Yeah, so how does this work? I mean, why is this so critical right now?
Good question. So Philip Brown, for instance, this guy is a father of 3 girls. I'm the father of 2. Federal officers came to the scene with MPD. They fired multiple shots into this man's car. Luckily, his daughters were not in there. The police report, which was the only thing available to his attorneys, did not mention federal officers, didn't even mention that there was any use of force whatsoever. So when they went to court, The judge was confused because there was no mention of it in the police report. My bill will ensure that that does not happen here in D.C.
Yeah, so what happens from now? So with this bill, with the council overriding the mayor's veto, where does it go?
So now it's law because the council overrode the veto. And if federal officers fire at somebody again, use force, arrest someone, that'll be included in the police report.
All right, so now that we know that it's included, that'll be documented in
That's
these
right.
incident reports, these police reports. The city has a name. Everyone will know what officers were involved. What do you do with that information in terms of holding officers accountable?
Well,
federal agents accountable.
That's right. So Philip Brown and his family did not know who those officers were, what agency they were with, and there was no documentation that they had fired shots. So when they showed up to court, they had nothing to share with the judges to make their case. That should never happen in D.C. If you have people who have deadly weapons and the authority to use them, you have to document when they use them.
Yeah, so I know you worked with the Attorney General's office, yes, to work on this legislation.
Yes.
What did they tell you about what's possible and what needs to be documented? And also tell us what you're hearing from some of your constituents in terms of what they're seeing, what they're hearing about the presence of these federal agents.
Well, the federal agents cause a lot of fear, and the more we don't have transparency or accountability, the more nervous it makes people, rightfully so. But the Attorney General's office gave us some good feedback on the bill because we shared it with them long before we introduced it along with 8 of my colleagues. And they said, well, look, you want to be careful that it doesn't impact prosecutions. So let's say a DC officer asks a federal officer, what's your name and badge number? And the federal officer says, I'm not giving it to you.
Right.
We give them room. We just say, look, we tried to get it, but we couldn't. And so we want to make sure that we don't mess up prosecutions or create new problems. And so we give flexibility in the bill.
Which is also fascinating because you have these federal agents working right alongside still some
right.
DC police officers going out to make different arrests, responding to different crime scenes together. But to have such a collaboration and not even know the names or the agencies of the people that you are collaborating with is kind of mind-blowing.
That's right. Or to suggest that we shouldn't share that information. You know, the mayor's argument was it's Congress's job to take care of this. The same Congress that, you know, is trying to get rid of our local attorney general, the same Congress that's letting this occupation happen in D.C., that's stealing hundreds of millions of dollars from D.C., they're not going to protect us. That's our job here in D.C.
To even think Congress will get that done.
That's right. Right. Even if they wanted to, they couldn't get it done.
All right, so we have to talk about this juvenile curfew because there was some movement, or lack of movement, if you will, on that at the Wilson building yesterday. Why shouldn't this be extended? We know the mayor wanted this extended, especially heading into spring break through the summer. Why is this not a good idea?
Well, there are two issues. One is that it's not working. The other is accountability to make sure we actually do something productive. On it not working, we saw what happened, which is outrageous at the Navy Yard about 2 weeks ago with young people just spilling over. There were fights. It was a bad situation. Yeah. That's with the curfew law in place, so it is not working. The second thing is we made clear to the mayor a year ago that this was a Band-Aid, you know, for lack of a better idea, we'll let you do a temporary curfew. But a year later, we need something better. You have to engage these young people, figure out why are they gathering there? What is missing that they need? How do we solve this problem? Because we all want the city to be safe. What we're seeing with these large groups of young people is not something that should be happening in DC, but the curfew law doesn't solve it. It just allows us to say, hey, we did something. And we're past that point. We actually have to do something. We can't just pretend to do something.
Yeah, we hear from DC police and they say it has been a good tool for them. Typically when they respond to scenes like Navy Yard, they say these teens end up dispersing. Mm-hmm. They go elsewhere. We heard from U.S. Attorney for DC, Janine Pirro. She's applauding the mayor for trying to get this through, but said the council is inviting trouble.
Yeah, this is, you know, politics and made up stories. Again, what we saw 2 weeks ago at Navy Yard was with the curfew law in place. So it's hard to logically say this is the thing that's working. The other examples they'll point to, I encourage people to pay attention. They're pointing to things that are already illegal, right? Say you fire a gun or you cause property damage. Mm-hmm. That has nothing to do with a curfew law. That is already illegal and fully enforceable. So enforce the laws on the books and engage these young people and find out what they're missing. We're now a year behind the ball on this. We got to get our act together. Yeah,
so what do you do? I mean, it's been more than a year or close to a year, like you said, and here we are again talking about extending it, not extending it.
Yeah. So I think what has to happen now is not best case scenario. I think the council has to step into the role of the mayor, convene the young people and the organizations that work with young people, ask them, what is it that's missing? What is it that you need us to put in place? And in this upcoming budget, put those things in place. Back in my day, it was basketball leagues and block parties, but young people today aren't looking for the same thing that we had. And so if we just throw things at them and say, hey, we gave you something to do, but we didn't bother to ask them what it is they want to do, then we've checked the box, and right now we have to solve a problem.
And we heard Mayor Bowser say before that, we could talk till we're blue in the face. There's plenty for kids to do right now. And she says a lot of these children are coming from outside of the district. Yeah. So how do you counter that narrative as well?
Well, we do have to make sure we are listening to young people in D.C. Maryland and Virginia, they have to handle that problem as well. And so the council is not against a curfew, but a curfew is one part of a solution. And so you got to give us the other pieces at this point.
Okay. At-large Councilmember Robert White, candidate for D.C. delegate. Always good to see you.
Always good to
Appreciate
see you. Thanks, Lorenzo.
Okay. All right, and by the way, Philip Brown's attorney says they expect to get the body-worn camera video from his case next week. Up next, solving D.C.'s rat problem. All right, a lot of people still sounding off about rats in D.C., and now D.C. leaders say they are working on yet another solution. So D.C. Health will give rodents a form of birth control in a new pilot program. It's a three-pronged blitz approach, according to D.C. Health. So one prong is a second-generation toxic bait put in active burrows. Another is a first-generation tracking powder that rats will ingest while grooming. And finally, what D.C. Health called a non-lethal fertility control bait that the agency hopes will limit their reproduction. Here's what else D.C. Health is saying about this plan.
We're going to get the rat population down, and then we're going to come back in 3 weeks to see if any of those babies survived and get them too. But they cannot stay down if they find anything to eat. So that means that everybody cannot be throwing food on the ground. The mayor doesn't like it, and it's helping the rats. We don't want your trash to be outside of the bin if at all possible. So all of that cleanliness that everybody's talking about, whenever we don't do that, we get rats.
All right, so the plan is to try all three methods in 3-week cycles and monitor their effectiveness. So stay tuned, hope it works, huh? Also, the D.C. Council passed emergency legislation putting a pause on Pepco utility shutoffs as more and more of us are dealing with these soaring bills. Specifically, this newly passed legislation prevents Pepco from turning off the electricity of residents and businesses for 90 days if they owe $1,000 or less. Ward 4 D.C. Council member Janice Lewis-George introduced this emergency legislation and said D.C. is seeing the largest spike in utility bills nationwide. Here's what Councilmember Zachary Parker had to say after voting yes on the emergency bill.
And just for numbers, more than 35% of district Pepco clients are in arrears. They're behind. Nearly, I think the number is 109,000 customers would be covered if this emergency would go into effect. So just think about that. I do not believe for 1 second more than 100,000 people are not paying simply because they refuse to pay, because they're trying to skirt the law and get by. It's because people are struggling. And we have seen, unfortunately, some see record profits. And we, as I already mentioned, we have not seen the level of oversight from this body that there should have been. And so I think this is a responsible and an immediate response for 90 days that would allow us to know what direction the Public Service Commission will take.
All right, so this is an emergency bill. I need to point that out, so it's not permanent. The D.C. Council is considering other proposals, though, that would increase bill transparency so you know what you're paying for and why. Also, at the Wilson Building, the D.C. Council decided to postpone a vote on extending the juvenile curfew. Temporary legislation allows D.C. police to set up these special zones where teenagers and kids are not allowed to gather in groups of 9 or more in neighborhoods like Navy Yard and U Street. That's where we've seen them. It expires, though, on April 15th. Rafael Sanchez-Cruz, he's been at the Wilson Building during most of these discussions. So, Rafa, why did they decide to postpone it? What now?
Look, the straight answer, though, is they didn't have the 9 votes necessary to move this temporary legislation. Like Councilmember Brooke Pinto told you last week, she's trying to get this extended through September, so through the spring and summer. Chairman Phil Mendelson and her were working to get colleagues on board, but they did not have those 9 votes.
All right, so where do they stand? So we have those who say yes, like Brooke Pinto saying we need to extend this through September, but others saying, no, we've been extending it for far too long. We need to come up with something else.
Yeah, and they're echoing a lot of what Councilmember Robert White just said, saying the curfew is in place now. They're still seeing teen takeovers, but they also want to see a really robust plan coming out of Mayor Muriel Bowser's office, showing what activities and programs and services are available for kids, especially those here in DC. But one of the problems that we're dealing with, Zoe, is a lot of these kids that are that are taking part in these takeovers aren't just DC kids.
Right.
They're coming in from Maryland, they're coming in from Virginia, and the way that they know that they're not from DC is that they're tracking them through the metro system and seeing how they're getting to neighborhoods like Navy Yard.
So there's clearly an effort here to solve this problem, even when you have DC police tracking these teens to figure out where they're coming from, monitoring their online activity. This has been an issue for quite a while, and they seem to not be able to get their hands around it.
Yeah, that's right. And if you ask the ANC commissioners who live in Navy Yard, they tell me it's a must, it's a tool, it deters the kids from gathering there. We've heard Mayor Muriel Bowser saying that she disagrees that it's a Band-Aid solution to this problem. And she also said, if it's a Band-Aid, why would you rip it off while we're still have a bleeding and open wound happening right now?
We just had some takeovers last weekend, the weekend before that.
That's right, and they actually found 2 guns at the scene. One of the 15-year-olds allegedly opened fire during those incidents. So it is a huge concern, but I think where we're at right now is we're waiting for council members to see what programs come from the executive, from Mayor Muriel Bowser's office, to then see if they can get those 9 votes. Again, so these curfew zones will expire on the 15th.
Right.
The vote will be the following week. It's still unclear whether Mayor Muriel Bowser plans to take executive action to see if she will kind of step in during this period of, are there curfew zones or are there no curfew zones?
All right, so we have roughly 30 seconds left, Rafa. I want to get this into the mayor's budget. That was supposed to be released initially today, April 1st.
Yep.
But we're not seeing that yet.
More delays. There's some fighting going on between the mayor's office and DC's chief financial officer. It seems like they haven't come together in terms of how much money the city actually has to present that budget. So we are seeing a delay. Usually it's DC Council taking aim at Mayor Bowser for this delay, but this time they're really taking aim at the CFO. Maybe we'll get a budget next week.
Okay, a lot of people waiting to go through that to see what the city will be able to pay for, what they won't be able to pay for. All right.
Hopefully we talk about it next week.
We will. Thank you, Rafa. All right, so it is time now for one of my favorite segments. We, the people of DC, we know the real heartbeat of the city is its people, good, thoughtful, innovative people. So I want us to get to know our neighbors, the ones who go out of their way to lift us all up. And right now, let's meet Jasmine Goodman, who is keeping DC students on the right path through her organization, Trapp with Love.
So Trapp stands for Teaching and Rambunctious Adolescents Peaceful Positive. And growing up in Southeast, I'm a Ward A baby. I've always wanted to have a safe space, like an after school program, even when I was younger. So now I was able to be in a position to where I can make my dream into a reality. So I built a safe space for all the youngest to come to after school. And in this safe space, I provide mentoring, life skills, just a extra person outside your home to just support you.
Yeah, so we have Marcel, Kennedy, we have Constance. Y'all are about to graduate in just a couple of months. You're about to cross that finish line. Trapp with Love, I'm sure, played a significant role in that development and getting you to that point. Marcel, I see you shaking your head. How's this program made a difference for you?
I ain't gonna lie, this program helped me a lot. Since I was in the 8th grade, this program helped me through a lot and helped me get to where I am now. I ain't gonna lie, it helped me through a lot.
Like how so? What do you mean?
Like staff being there for me here, like them being here for me. Like if I was like down or anything, like I ain't gonna lie, I could come here and count on someone to, be there for me. Or if you get what I'm saying, like they done push me through my whole high school. Like throughout the years of high school, I feel as though they done helped me through it.
It's been your constant. They've been consistent there
Yes.
for a number of years now. And I understand for all of you, you're trying to get to Puerto Rico, right? As sort of a reward for crossing that finish line for 12th grade. I see you smiling about that, Constance. You excited about graduating?
Yeah.
Tell me how tough it was getting to that point.
For me,
Yeah,
it was a lot. It was
it was a lot.
a lot. I started going to Trapp in like 10th, I want to say 10th grade summer because an incident happened right outside the Trapp, and Jazz told me and my friend to start coming up there. Not Kennedy, but I have another friend that also it goes to Trapp. And we was out there fighting and stuff, and then Jazz and everybody else in Trapp like just started talking to us, and Jazz started having groups with us, and she was just helping us get through a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff be happening. I got put out, got put back in blue. A lot of stuff happened, but Jazz was always there. Like since I met Jazz, she's always been helpful, helping hand. She just want to help everybody.
So this graduation is going to be a pretty big marker. I mean, that sounds like a lot for high school that you had to go through and then get put back on the right track.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's certainly worth celebrating. What about you, Kennedy?
I had a rough time getting to where I am now. I feel like Trapp helped me grow in ways I could have never imagined. Like from 9th grade to now, I feel like I've grown to be a very mature young lady. I'm learning more ways to cope with my anger and walk away from stuff, and yeah.
Those are
Trapp
all
has taught me like how to be the woman I am, how to be confident. When I walk in a room, I could be confident. I could speak on how I am and what I've been through, and inspire other people on what I went through.
What do you all want people to know about your journey and you as people and what we can look forward to from all of you in the future? You know, there's obviously a lot more life after high school. So what are the big plans, Marcel?
Plans for me after high school. Trapp just got us into this program, this HVAC program, getting us our universal license. So that's what I'm planning on taking taking it and running with it in life. I got my HVAC certificate.
Yeah, say that.
Yeah, there we go. I need some HVAC work done now. So that job will always be around and a necessity. All right, Kennedy, what about you?
Me, I'm working on getting the rest of my certificates for IT.
Oh, nice. Okay, Constance, what you got lined up?
I don't know. I'm done with school, so I've been working, but as far as like graduating wise, I even want to join the National Guard. Jazz had the National Guard come up there. He was like talking about it and stuff, like how it would be if we joined and stuff. So I'm interested in that, but I'm also interested in going to college too.
Yeah. And Jasmine, these are your babies. You know, they're about to
Yeah.
cross that finish line. How are you feeling?
It's like bittersweet, but I know, they're good. They're gonna be good. I'm always here with them, so we gonna be fine.
Yeah. Well, I want to say that I'm so proud of all of you. This is significant. A lot of people, as we know in our community, don't get to cross that threshold to graduate from high school. So I hope you cherish this moment. You see the value in this moment, and you continue to give back to your community as well, like you see Jasmine doing. That's what it's all about. Clearly, she's made a difference in so many lives. I appreciate y'all.
Thank you so much
I
for taking
appreciate
time
you
out to
too.
listen to us.
Appreciate you too.
Thank you. And Jasmine hosted a brunch this past weekend to try and raise at least $50,000 to support more than a dozen graduating seniors with various expenses like prom and their senior trip. It is still not too late to help out if you can. All right, when we come back, the best sounds of our city. How about we end on a high note here? A big shout out to the Musicianship, a youth development organization using music to empower the next generation right here in DC. So they're not just offering free lessons and help with instruments, they are opening doors. They also host the Whammies. Think of it as DC's own Grammy Awards. I hit the red carpet for the 37th annual Whammy Music Awards this past weekend. And let me tell you, it did not disappoint. Like Best Latin Artist nominees Joan and Kelly Alva, who use music to say what words alone cannot. First, tell me about MIA. What is that about?
It's about Miami. It's about expressing your feelings. I took a trip, right, about going to Miami with a person that I love. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to confess my feelings during that time, but she found out through somebody else. Oh. And then finding out it was,
it was
me.
Thanks for answering that, because I was going to say, oh man, we got to know more.
No, my song is vice versa as well. I wanted to tell him my feelings, but I didn't want to yet, so I wrote it in a song, and it's called Down. Are you down for me, basically?
So many talented people in that room. I absolutely loved it. A night all about community, lifting up young voices and celebrating the sounds of our city. They're wonderful. All right, that does it for us here on the DC Beat this week. Thank you for being here with us and for your time. Truly the greatest gift. I will see you back here next Wednesday night at 7 p.m.